You need to hear this, because being too friendly is not kindness, it's not warmth, it's not generosity most of the time, it's self-betrayal disguised as being a good person, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. You say yes when you want to say no. You smile when you're uncomfortable. You laugh to keep the peace. You agree to things that drain you. You let people interrupt, overstep, disrespect, and then you blame yourself for feeling exhausted. Let me tell you something Mel Robbins repeats often. If you don't set the tone for how people treat you, they will set it for you. And when you're too friendly, you're teaching people that your time, your energy, your boundaries are optional. You want to be liked, you want to avoid conflict, you think being friendly will make life easier, but being too friendly does the opposite. It attracts takers, it attracts users, it attracts people who see your openness not as kindness, but as an invitation to push further. And here's the truth no one tells you. People respect the person who has boundaries, not the one who tries to please everyone. Being friendly is not the problem. Being friendlier to others than you are to yourself is the problem. You don't owe everyone your warmth. You don't owe everyone your time. You don't owe everyone instant access to your heart. You need to learn something powerful. You can be kind without being overly available. You can be warm without being walked on. You can be respectful without overextending yourself. Listen, the version of you who tries to please everyone is tired. Tired of being the comfort for people who wouldn't lift a finger for you. Tired of giving loyalty to people who only give you convenience. Tired of being friendly to those who don't deserve your softness. Mel Robbins teaches this clearly. Your boundaries are an act of self-respect. Your limits are not rude, they are requirements. Your no is a complete sentence. So today, stop giving your energy to everyone. Stop rushing to help people who wouldn't show up for you. Stop forcing connections. Stop explaining, over-explaining, and trying to be the nice one, because your life will change the moment you stop being too friendly and start being real. Real with your boundaries, real with your time, real with your energy, real with the people who deserve you and the people who do not. You don't need to be liked by everyone. You need to be respected, starting with respect from yourself. This is your reminder. Be kind, yes. Be friendly, yes. But don't be so friendly that you forget who you are. Your peace, your time, your heart, they are valuable. Start treating them like they are. When you become too friendly, it often starts from a good intention. You want to be liked, accepted, appreciated. You want to avoid conflict and be seen as someone easy to get along with. But slowly, without even realizing it, you begin to bend yourself to fit into places you've outgrown, conversations you don't enjoy, and relationships that no longer respect you. Being too friendly turns into a habit of abandoning your own boundaries just to make others comfortable, and that's where self-betrayal begins. Self-betrayal is subtle. It shows up in those small moments where you silence your true feelings because you don't want to seem difficult. It shows up when you nod in agreement even when your heart says the opposite. It shows up when you volunteer your time even though you're exhausted, simply because you don't want to disappoint someone. Every time you do this, you teach yourself that your needs matter less than someone else's. You send a message to your own mind. Everyone else comes first. I come second. This message affects your confidence more than you realize. When you constantly prioritize being friendly over being honest with yourself, you create a separation between who you are and who you pretend to be. You walk around smiling while your chest feels heavy. You say it's fine when you know it's not. You apologize even when the mistake wasn't yours. You're performing a version of yourself that feels safe, agreeable, and socially acceptable. But the real you is quietly suffocating beneath the surface. The problem with self-betrayal is that it doesn't stay harmless. Over time, it builds frustration. You start feeling unseen, unheard, unappreciated. You begin to resent the very people you're trying to please. You wonder why others don't reciprocate your effort, why they take your kindness for granted, why they cross lines you never cross with them. But the truth is, people can only act according to the role you've taught them. If you've conditioned others to expect you to say yes every time, they won't understand why you suddenly say no. If you've conditioned others to see you as the one who never complains, they won't notice when you're hurting. Being too friendly creates emotional imbalance because you're giving more than you're receiving. You're pouring into others from a cup that no one helps refill. And when you constantly silence your real feelings, you lose trust in yourself. You start doubting your opinions, your worth, your instincts. You begin to forget what you actually want because you've spent so long thinking about what everyone else needs. The core issue is that overfriendliness is often rooted in fear. Fear of conflict, fear of rejection, fear of disappointing people, fear of being misunderstood. But every time you choose friendliness over truth, you reinforce the belief that you must earn your place in people's lives. You start to believe that being liked is more important than being authentic, and that is the deepest form of self-betrayal, believing you have to shrink yourself for others to accept you. When you stop being too friendly, you're not becoming rude, cold, or unkind. You're simply choosing yourself. You're letting your true thoughts, your real boundaries, and your genuine personality stand without apology. You reclaim your identity, your voice, and your emotional space. And once you do that, you'll never go back to abandoning yourself for the sake of being liked. When you move through the world being overly friendly and overly available, you don't just shape how people see you, you shape how they treat you. Whether you realize it or not, every action you take teaches others what they can expect from you. Every time you allow someone to interrupt you, take advantage of your time, dismiss your boundaries, or rely on you more than they should, you're sending a message. You're telling them, this is okay. You can treat me like this. Most people don't intentionally disrespect you. They simply follow the patterns you reinforce. Humans read signals, not intentions. They respond to behavior more than words. So if you're the person who always says yes before thinking, people will naturally assume you're always available. If you're the one who forgives too quickly, they'll assume your forgiveness comes effortlessly and endlessly. If you constantly prioritize their comfort over your own, they'll begin to expect it because you've normalized it. People rarely stop to ask, am I asking for too much? Instead, they take what's offered, and when you're too friendly, you offer more than you should. This isn't about blame, it's about awareness. Most people respond to boundaries, but they can't respect boundaries they don't know exist. When you're overly friendly, what you see as generosity, others interpret as your standard setting. You may think you're being nice, but they see consistency. They see predictability. They see a pattern. You always pick up the phone. You always show up. You always listen. You always adjust yourself to meet their needs. And once that becomes the pattern, breaking it feels uncomfortable. Not just for them, but for you. The reason breaking this cycle feels so hard is because you've taught people to rely on a version of you that isn't sustainable. You've created expectations through your friendliness that you can't maintain without sacrificing your mental and emotional well-being. Over time, you start feeling drained while others remain unaware of the toll their expectations take on you. You may even start to resent the very people you've been trying to accommodate, asking yourself why they don't give back with the same effort. But the truth is simple, they're only following the rules you taught them. Mel Robbins often talks about how your choices create your life, the choices you make when dealing with people. Your yes, your no, your silence, your smiles are all part of the instructions you give them. If you hesitate to speak up, they'll assume they can talk over you. If you allow small disrespect, they'll assume it's harmless. If you keep sacrificing your needs, they'll assume you don't have any. Teaching people how to treat you isn't about being harsh or demanding. It's about being consistent in your boundaries and honest in your interactions. When you stop being too friendly, you begin to reset the tone. You start to communicate clearly through your actions that your time is valuable, your boundaries matter, and your presence is not something to be taken lightly. You start showing people the real standard, the one aligned with your self-respect rather than your fear of being disliked. And once you set that standard, the right people will adjust, and the wrong ones will simply fade out. Not everyone is meant to receive your warmth, your openness, or your friendliness, and the sooner you understand this, the more peaceful your life becomes. Being a kind, compassionate person is a strength, but being endlessly friendly, endlessly available, and endlessly accommodating can become a weakness when it's directed toward the wrong people. There are individuals who see friendliness as softness and softness as an opportunity to take advantage. They mistake your openness for naivety, your kindness for weakness, and your compassion for permission to overstep. This is why being friendly without discernment can lead you into situations where your generosity becomes a tool others use for their own benefit. You may feel guilty for pulling back, for setting limits, or for being selective about who gets your emotional energy. But the truth is, discernment is not cruelty, it's wisdom. Not everyone has earned access to your heart, your time, your vulnerability, or your life. Some people show you early signs of selfishness, disrespect, inconsistency, or manipulation, but because you want to remain friendly, you overlook those signs. You convince yourself you're overreacting, or that being kind means giving endless chances. But ignoring these signs is the fastest way to drain yourself emotionally. There is a quiet power in being intentional with your friendliness. When you give it to everyone equally, the value of your kindness gets diluted. People start expecting your warmth without offering loyalty. They expect your support without giving support. They expect your understanding without giving effort. You begin to pour into people who would never pour back into you. And with time, you start to feel the exhaustion of carrying relationships that only stay alive because you keep feeding them. Being selective doesn't mean being cold. It means recognizing your own worth. It means acknowledging that your energy is limited and precious. Your friendliness should be reserved for those who appreciate it, not for those who consume it. People who truly value you won't misuse your kindness. They'll protect it. They won't take advantage of your friendliness. They'll reciprocate it. They won't expect you to overextend. They'll meet you halfway. When you continue being friendly to people who mistreat you, you unintentionally send a message that their behavior is acceptable. You allow them to stay in your life even when they've shown through their actions that they don't deserve that place. And every time you allow someone like that to remain, you take space away from someone who could have treated you better. Your task is not to be friendly to everyone. You are not meant to be universally accessible. Your task is to protect your inner peace, your emotional health, and your self-respect. That requires looking at people's patterns, their intentions, and their consistency. It requires understanding who genuinely cares and who simply benefits from your presence. When you stop giving your friendliness to undeserving people, you stop repeating cycles of disappointment. You create space for healthier connections, for people who respect your boundaries, who value your presence, and who see your kindness as a privilege, not a resource to exploit. And that shift changes everything about the quality of your relationships and the peace you feel within yourself. People often misunderstand boundaries. They see them as walls, as barriers, as a sign that you're being cold, difficult, or unfriendly. But in reality, boundaries are one of the most powerful indicators of emotional maturity. They are the evidence that you know your worth. They are the foundation of every healthy relationship you will ever have. And the truth is, no matter how friendly you are, your life cannot function in a healthy way if you don't have boundaries to support it. Most people are raised to believe that saying no makes you selfish, that setting limits makes you rude, and that standing up for your needs makes you hard to deal with. So you grow up thinking you must be agreeable, flexible, polite, and always available. But what no one tells you is that being endlessly flexible eventually breaks you. People can bend you only so far before you lose the shape of who you really are. Boundaries are the thing that keep you from losing yourself in the process of trying to please everyone else. When you don't have boundaries, you give people full access to your time, your emotions, your energy, and your mental space. You leave yourself wide open, hoping your friendliness will make people treat you kindly. But friendliness without limits doesn't earn respect. It invites imbalance. You become the person people call only when they need something, rely on only when they're in trouble, or turn to only when it benefits them. And the longer you allow this, the more invisible your own needs become. Boundaries are not about shutting people out. They are about letting the right people in. They are the filter that separates healthy relationships from draining ones. A boundary says, "This is how I expect to be treated," and it allows others to decide whether they can meet that standard. And here's the beautiful part. The people who truly care about you will adjust. They will respect your space, honor your no, and treat your time as valuable. Boundaries don't push good people away. They push the wrong people out. When you begin setting boundaries after a lifetime of being too friendly, the first thing you feel is guilt. You'll question yourself. You'll worry that you're hurting others or that you're being too harsh. But that guilt is not a sign that you're doing something wrong. It's a sign that you're doing something new. You're unlearning years of conditioning that taught you to minimize your own needs. You're teaching yourself that it's okay to choose yourself, and that shift is uncomfortable at first, but it's necessary. As you strengthen your boundaries, something powerful happens. Your confidence grows. You start trusting your own voice. You stop tolerating disrespect. You stop allowing people to take advantage of your kindness. You start building relationships where you feel valued instead of drained. You realize that peace comes from knowing where your limits are and protecting them. Boundaries are not rudeness. Boundaries are clarity. They're honesty. They're self-respect in action. They're the difference between living a life where people walk all over you and living a life where people walk with you. And once you experience the freedom that comes from asserting your boundaries, you'll never again apologize for having them. Being too friendly can feel natural. You want to connect, to be liked, to make life smoother for yourself and others. But the more you give without discernment, the more likely you are to attract people who aren't aligned with your values, people who want to take, not give, people who see your kindness as a convenience rather than a privilege. Over-friendliness doesn't just leave you emotionally drained. It sends the wrong signal to the world. It tells people that your generosity has no limits, that your time, energy, and attention are theirs to claim whenever they want. And this is why being too friendly often attracts users rather than respect. Respect is earned when others see that your presence has boundaries. Users, on the other hand, see your friendliness as access, as permission, as a door left open to exploit. They don't value the heart behind your gestures. They value what they can gain. When you allow everyone unlimited access to your emotions, your time, and your energy, you teach people that you can be relied upon indefinitely, that your needs are secondary, and that your patience is endless. They don't see it as kindness. They see it as weakness, and people rarely treat weakness with care. They treat it with convenience. The problem is subtle. At first, being overly friendly seems harmless, even rewarding. People smile when you smile. They appreciate your help, your listening ear, your willingness to accommodate. But over time, patterns form. Those who are not genuinely invested in your well-being begin to test limits, ask for more, and take for granted the energy you consistently give. You start feeling used, frustrated, and exhausted, but you may wonder why. The reason is simple. They are following the standard you set. Your over-friendliness has created expectations that they have learned to depend on. And the more you give without limits, the more they take. Being too friendly is not just about generosity. It's about signaling. Every interaction teaches people something about your availability, your patience, your tolerance, and your boundaries. If you never assert limits, they assume there are none. Users sense this, often without conscious thought, and they naturally gravitate toward it. They don't do it to harm you intentionally. They simply follow the path of least resistance. And because your friendliness creates that path, they will continue down it until you enforce boundaries or remove yourself. The solution isn't to stop being kind. Kindness is essential, but it must be paired with discernment. True kindness is selective. True respect is mutual. You need to create space for people who honor your time and effort, for those who value reciprocity, for those who see your presence as a gift, not a given. Over-friendliness without selectivity will never generate respect, because respect comes from acknowledging limits, not giving endlessly. When you start being intentional about your friendliness, you begin to filter your relationships naturally. You no longer attract those who take advantage of your generosity. You start creating space for people who truly care about your well-being. And most importantly, you reclaim your energy, your peace, and your sense of self-worth. Being too friendly may have once drawn people close, but being wisely friendly draws the right people close. And that is how respect is earned. Kindness is one of the most beautiful qualities a person can have, but it becomes harmful when it comes at the expense of your own well-being. Many people confuse being friendly with being available for everyone all the time, with giving endlessly, with saying yes to every request. The truth is, you can be kind and still maintain your boundaries. You can be warm and still protect your energy. You can be friendly and still choose who deserves your time. Understanding this balance is critical, because friendliness without limits often leads to exhaustion, resentment, and the gradual erosion of self-respect. Being overly available to everyone creates a situation where your energy is spread thin. You find yourself constantly adjusting to other people's schedules, opinions, and needs while ignoring your own. You start prioritizing others over yourself so consistently that your own goals, desires, and mental health take a back seat. Over time, you begin to feel depleted, and no matter how kind you are, people start taking your generosity for granted. They assume that because you are friendly, your time, effort, and attention are unlimited. They may not even consciously intend to exploit you. They are simply responding to the standard you have set. And the more you allow yourself to be too friendly, the more entrenched that expectation becomes. The beauty of balancing friendliness with self-respect is that it allows you to retain your kindness without being consumed by it. You can offer help when it truly matters. You can listen with full attention when it's warranted. And you can extend warmth without giving away the entirety of your mental and emotional resources. When you consciously choose where and how to invest your friendliness, it becomes meaningful, intentional, and powerful. People start valuing it more because it is no longer automatic or taken for granted. You shift from being someone who is merely agreeable to someone whose presence carries weight and purpose. Important aspect of this balance is that it teaches others how to engage with you properly. If you are always over-available, people never learn to respect your time. If you never assert limits, people may push boundaries unconsciously. By maintaining your friendliness but applying it selectively, you communicate clearly that while you are warm and approachable, you are not a doormat. Your yes becomes intentional rather than reflexive. Your attention becomes earned rather than assumed, and your energy becomes protected rather than exploited. This is the distinction between being kind and being too accommodating. This approach also strengthens your relationships. The people who remain close are those who truly appreciate you and reciprocate your efforts. Your interactions are healthier because they are rooted in mutual respect rather than obligation or expectation. You avoid draining dynamics and minimize the risk of being taken advantage of. You also feel more confident, more authentic, and more in control of your life because your boundaries support your own priorities as much as your kindness supports others. Learning to be kind without being overly available is about valuing yourself. It's about recognizing that your energy, your time, and your emotional well-being are precious. It's about understanding that true kindness doesn't require you to give endlessly. It requires you to give wisely. By doing this, you create a life where friendliness enhances your presence rather than diminishes it, where your warmth uplifts without depleting, and where your generosity is respected rather than exploited. This balance is not only sustainable, it is transformative. Remember this, being friendly is not a flaw, it's a strength. But when friendliness comes at the cost of your peace, your boundaries, and your self-respect, It stops serving you and starts serving everyone else's convenience. The moment you choose yourself first, the moment you set clear boundaries and speak your truth, your energy becomes powerful, your relationships become healthier, and your life begins to align with the respect you deserve. Stop overextending, stop people pleasing, stop giving access to those who do not value it. Be kind, be warm, be genuine, but never at the cost of losing yourself. Your time, your energy, and your heart are your most valuable assets. Treat them that way. If you take one thing from this message, let it be this. Your friendliness should reflect your strength, not your weakness. Protect it, honor it, and let it draw the right people closer while keeping the wrong ones at a distance. Stay aware, stay intentional, stay powerful, and remember, the world respects the person who respects themselves first.